Welcome to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the educational series. I am glad that you are here for this course, which is Building and Growing Your Database, which is truly one of the most important, most foundational parts of your business. So let's jump in and get started. First, I want to go through a few how-tos with you for how to best take advantage of this course. This is really designed for anyone, no matter where you are, whatever phase of your business you're in. If you're a brand new agent, this is especially important for you to get you started off on the right foot. Even if you are a seasoned agent, you can never learn too much. You can never do too much to grow, massage, maintain your database to keep your business flowing. And so I'm going to walk you through some of my favorite steps and things that I have done in my business over the past 19 years to have the success that I have had. So if you are someone who is new, or even if you've been around for a while, but you've never really had a database, if you are building this from scratch, you're going to want to set aside a good 60 to 90 minutes just for the building segment of this course. So you may want to kind of stop and start. You may not want to do the entire thing at once. You're going to definitely want to make sure that you have a good chunk of time set aside for that building segment. If you are someone who already has a established database, you've been in business for a while, you are used to keeping your people somewhere, you have a CRM, then it's the growing segment of this course that is going to take you the most amount of time, most likely. So keep that in mind as you're working through. And just to kind of keep in mind, if you are someone who doesn't have a CRM in use, or you don't have something in mind that you want to use, then that first step is really what's going to take you the longest. And you're going to need to take a little bit of time to do some research and figure out which system you are going to want to utilize. And we'll talk about that in a second. But listen, when in doubt, start with Excel and then just move up from there. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it's going to change as time goes on. Let's talk a little bit first about why do you need a database in the first place? So your database is the foundation of your real estate business. Everything that you do in your business is going to be resulting from and coming from your database. I have been in business for 19 years. I personally helped well over 700 families with their real estate needs, and a good 85% of my business is generated through my database. So it is really critical and important, especially the longer you're in business. If you're doing this right and you're continually adding and growing and staying in touch with your database and the people that you've worked with before, then you're going to start to get that momentum, and that snowball effect kind of picks up, and that helps to lead to more consistent success in your business, which I think is what we all want. So one of the things that I want you to really think about as you're going through this is it doesn't matter, even if you are not someone who plans to do business by referral and you plan to utilize maybe cold calling or door knocking or open houses are really going to be the primary pillars for your business, you still need a database, because as time goes on, you're going to be meeting new people, you're going to be having real estate conversations with people, you're going to be doing transactions with people, and you don't want to just do a transaction and then stop and never talk to them again, or just think that automatically they're going to think of you when they need help again, or that they're going to think of you when their neighbor or their sister or their friend needs help with real estate. You have to actively work to stay top of mind, and that's where the database comes in. So it doesn't matter what the pillars are in your business. It doesn't matter how you plan to do the majority of your business. You still need to have this database. It really is the only way to be top of mind is with the regular connection. So there is a quote that I have said for years and years, which I'm honestly not even sure is accurate anymore. But the first time I heard it, it was stunning, and it really kept with me, and it's something that I have kept in mind as I have worked through my business all these years. And that it was a stat, I want to say from NVAR many, many years ago. And it was something to the effect of, people forget you're a realtor every 17 days. So even if you have had the most amazing, fantastic real estate transaction with someone, time is going to move on, and their life is going to move on, and they're busy and they have lots happening. And once they get past that transaction, it doesn't matter how wonderful you are, unless you are actively working to connect, you're not going to stay top of mind. You're not going to be top of mind when the person at work says, gosh, I really think it's time for us to move. Or you're not going to be top of mind when their family member suddenly needs to relocate. And so this is why you have to be connecting. And this is why your database is really so critically important. If you're brand new to the real estate business, your database is really where you need to start. And I think that that is a mistake that a lot of agents make. They come into the business and their first sort of thought or idea is, well, gosh, I don't know anybody who wants to do business. I got to find leads. I got to find business. I need to learn how to do the contract. There's so many things, but you don't want to be a secret agent. You need to let the people that you know what you're doing, because they don't think of you as a realtor. They don't think of you as a real estate professional, at least not yet. And so the only way that's going to happen and that connection is going to take place is if you get your database going, if you get them added into your database and you start connecting with them. So you really need to start with that when you're brand new, is compiling that list. And that's what we're going to be going over in this course. And then statistically speaking, this is a stat I think I got from Tom Ferry at an event that he had a couple of years ago. And what he said is that, from all the stats that they have done with their members, that for every 100 people in your database, that should equate to 10 transactions per year. Now, that's only if you stay in touch. If you just have the people in your database, but you don't do anything else with them, that's not going to work. You have to be staying in touch. And the idea of where that comes from is, it's not that you have 100 people in your database and every year 10 of them are going to do real estate, or they're going to have a real estate need or do a transaction with you. Think about it. Most people, I think the average that people move might be every 5, 6, 10 years, depending on where you're located, depending on the price point, depending on if it's, new young families or single people, and they're kind of moving up through that real estate life cycle. But it's the people that they know and the people that they refer you to. So this is where growing that database is so important. So let's start with where to keep it. This is probably one of the most asked questions that we get in our group, Empowering Women in Real Estate, on Facebook. Really, if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me this question, where should I keep my database? What's the best CRM? Well, the answer is the best one is the one that you're going to use, because they all have benefits. They all have great features. I can honestly say, and I've used quite a few over the years, none of them are perfect. There isn't one, unless I think you can build it yourself, which I don't know that, and many of us can do. Nothing is going to be perfect, but you have to start with something, and you need to really fully engross yourself in using your database, because if you don't use it, you're not going to get the benefits from it. And that is a mistake that I see a lot of people make, is they will dump all their people in their database and they never touch it again. You have to be in there constantly updating, adding information, utilizing the services that your database or that your CRM provides, so that you can actually see the benefits from it. So there is no right or wrong. You can use a CRM. There's so many options out there that are available to you. You can use an Excel spreadsheet. I know many agents that use Excel spreadsheets. You could use a Google Doc. You could even use your phone contacts. And I will admit that for years, I just used the contacts in my phone. It doesn't matter where you keep this data, where you keep this information. What matters is that it's something that's easy to use, and it's something that makes sense to you, that you're going to be able to constantly work with it. And the thing to know is that you need to understand that as you grow in your business, you may outgrow your CRM, and that's okay. I have certainly seen that through my career. I used, for a period of time, I've used CRMs that my team leader recommended when I first started in business. I've used multiple different, I've kind of tested different ones that didn't really work for me. For the longest time, I used my phone contacts, and it worked for me. I had a way to categorize them, which we're going to talk about in this course. But as my business grew and the larger my database became and the more people I'd work with over time, the less effective it became, and I really needed a system. And so the one that I have been using for the last 6 years is Brian Buffini's Referral Maker CRM. This is not an ad. I'm just telling you what works for me. I've talked about this a lot in our group. It's really very affordable when you look at a lot of the different CRMs out there. If you pay for the year in advance, it's, I think, $240 for the year. You can get a free 30-day trial on their website. And for me, especially someone who does business by referral, it really most closely matches the needs that I have for my business. And so it has worked really, really well for me, but that may not be the solution for you. Pick something, just seriously, just pick something and then just get started and work with it and use it consistently. And then you're going to know over time if it's the right solution for you or not, or if you need to kind of grow and add a different solution. All right, now let's talk about building your database. So this is probably the most important thing. If you get nothing else out of this course, this is the thing that you need to hear. And it is this: when you are adding people to your database, it's not just that you are adding people that you think are going to need to do a real estate transaction in the next period of time. Each person you know knows other people who might want to do a real estate transaction or who will need your services. So it's not about that person doing business with you. It's about all of the people that they know. That's really where the power comes from your database. And I find a lot of agents are afraid to add people into their database because they think, well, gosh, I just met that neighbor and they were so nice and they bought new construction through the salesperson at the model and they've only been here for a year. I don't need to add them to my database. Well, you sure do, because who do they know? Who are the people that they know that might want to move into the neighborhood? Or who are the people that they know that might have real estate needs in the area? It's more about really who they know than them doing transactions themselves. So keep that in mind and kind of use that as your kind of litmus test when you're thinking about putting people in your database. I have certainly kind of fallen prey to this myself, where I will think, oh, well, you know what? I don't need to add that person because I'm sure they're not looking to move. They just bought their forever home or they just downsized. But really, again, it's not about them. It's about the people that they know. So keep that in mind when you're building your database. Your goal, if you are brand new, or if you have not ever really put together a database before, your goal needs to be to start with 100 people. And I hear a lot like, oh, I don't know 100 people. You really do. You know so many more people than you think you do. And a couple more steps in this process, I'm going to share with you places where to find those people. But you want to start with the 100 minimum. That needs to be your goal when you're getting started. If you have been in business for a while, then you should, and you're looking at that target, you want to add an additional 25 people for every year that you have been in business. And that's going to be the target for your database. And here's why: because every year, you are going to have people who will migrate out of your database. And we'll talk about that more as we go, but it is inevitable. People will move without you. People will leave the area altogether, and maybe you choose not to keep them in your database. People will be falling out of your database. You have to be constantly adding and replenishing. It's great if you start with 100, but you can't expect to stay there because it's going to be decreasing. So you have to be adding to it. So those are your targets as you're working through this process. If you're new or just getting started or putting your database together, you're going to start with 100 people minimum. If you've been in business for longer than that, then add about 25 people per year, and that will give you your target for each year that you've been in business. Okay, now if you are building from scratch, start with your holiday card list. Now, I know not everybody sends holiday cards anymore. If you do, then this is really easy. You just start with those lists. Whoever is on that list, because who are those people? They're friends, they're neighbors, they're probably people you went to high school with. They might be coworkers or past colleagues. It could be the parents of your children's friends. Those are the people who are on your holiday card list. And so start with that. That is the easiest place to start when you're putting together your database. If you don't have a holiday card list, then those are the people. Who are the people that if you did send cards, who are the people that you would send cards to? That's the easiest place to start. And then fill in people who are your family, your neighbors, your past coworkers, or if you are a dual career agent and you're getting started, maybe it would be appropriate for you to add your current coworkers. Now, you may not want to add your current boss, but you know the people that you work with the best. And so you can kind of think about what makes sense as far as that's concerned. Basically, you want to add anyone and everyone. Advice that I got once that I try to use a lot is we should not be the ones who are making decisions for other people, whether or not they want to hear from us. That's not up to us. Let's give them the respect and the opportunity to choose whether or not they want to hear from us. And so how do you do that? Well, if you never send them anything in the first place, they're not going to call you and say, "Hey, do you have a mailing list? You know, I'd really like to hear from you more often." Have you ever, I mean, has anybody ever done that? I mean, I've been in business for a really long time. No one has ever called me up or messaged me and said, "Hey, I want to get on your list," right? Have you ever said that to anyone? I don't know that I have ever said that to anyone. When I have gotten on someone's list or I have gotten in touch with them, it's because um, they have intentionally asked me. They have given me the opportunity to connect with them, or they have started reaching out to me, and then I get to make the decision if I want to continue to hear from them. And so what does that look like? That looks like an unsubscribe on your email. If you have a regular email, maybe you have a newsletter that goes out, or I do a drawing that goes out to my database every month. It has an unsubscribe button that I send right through my CRM. And so if it's not a way that they choose to hear from me, they can unsubscribe. That's not a big deal. From time to time, not very often, but occasionally, probably about a handful of times in my career, I've heard from someone who said, "Please take me off your mailing list. I don't wish to get those mailers." And you know what? That's okay. No offense taken. I gave them the opportunity. They get to decide if it was something that they wanted or not, and then they could opt out. So don't overthink this and think, "Oh my gosh, they don't want to hear from me." You don't know whether they want to hear from you or not. Give them the opportunity, share with them, and they can let you know if they don't want to be included. And one more thing I will share with you when it comes to building your database is progress is better than perfection. It is okay if you do not have complete contact information for each person that you're adding. Just start with what you have, and then you can build from there. That is another mistake that I see, and I have certainly been guilty of this myself. Oh, I just met that new person, and they were so nice, and I would like to include them in my database, but all I know is their mailing address because I looked it up on the tax record, or all I have is their email, or all I have is their phone number. Well, that's okay. Just put in what you have, and you can update that later on. But if you don't put them in, you are going to forget, and they're never going to make it into your database. Something that I have learned to do over the last few years is I have gotten to the point where I will add people even if I have no contact information whatsoever. I will just put them in because I don't want to forget, and I know that I will forget, and I will fill it in later when I do a database refresh, which we're going to talk about too. So those are the steps for building your database. Now, if you are new or you are just getting started for the first time building your database, then what I recommend is that you probably want to stop here and spend some time building that database. You figured out what you're going to use. Maybe it's just an Excel sheet to start, or pick a CRM, do a trial from something, and upload those people into your database. You need to just get started. And so that's what you want to do first. The next thing that you want to do is you want to have a ranking system. It's great to have everybody in your database, and especially when you're new or your database is not that large, it's not as big of a deal because you can probably afford to market to everyone who's in there. But as your database grows, the longer that you're in business, it just doesn't make sense to market to everyone exactly the same way every single month or every single week. It can become very cost prohibitive the bigger your database gets. And this is where the ranking system comes into place. And the ranking system is going to allow you to really focus and prioritize not only where you're spending your time from a marketing perspective with your database, but also where you're spending your money, because you want to make sure that you are putting it in the best places possible. So again, just like with the CRM, there is no right or wrong answer. Find a system that works for you. I just encourage you to keep it really simple. Now, if you have a CRM that you're using, more than likely it's going to have a system that's already built into it. So for example, the Referral Maker CRM that I use, it has the ABC system, which is what I use, and I'll talk about in a second. It has that already built in. If you are using another kind of CRM, more than likely it has some kind of organizing or sorting capability in it, where you can put people into different buckets based on where they are in the business process with you, or where they are in terms of referring you in your database or referring you in your business. And so you can figure that out. Now, if you are doing something like a Google Doc or Excel, maybe you'd use a color coding system, just something that's going to allow you to establish. Because here's the thing, as you start building your database and as you start doing business with people, if you have someone that you have closed a transaction with, well, that is someone that you are going to want to stay in touch with a little bit more frequently than someone who is an acquaintance that you've never even had a real estate conversation about. If you have someone who has referred business to you over and over again, well, you want to stay in touch with them even more frequently than the one who has just done a transaction with you, and definitely way more frequently than the acquaintance that you've never talked to about real estate. So that's why the ranking system is really important. It helps you to prioritize and focus when you're doing your marketing. One of the things that I love, not to give another plug about Referral Maker, but one of the things that I love about Referral Maker is it has something called its Priority Action Center. And again, it's based on the more data I put in, the better I am at updating information and logging activities and tasks into my CRM, the better quality information it gives me. So every month when it's time for me to mail my birthday cards, I can go to that spot in the CRM and it's going to tell me who has a birthday that month. Every season, when it's time for me to do my pop buys and decide who I'm going to send up, deliver a pop buy to or send a pop buy mailer to, I can go to the Priority Action Center and it will have already sorted for me my database based on when is the last time I delivered something to them and what is their ranking in my system. And again, a lot of CRMs are going to have something like this built into it already. So take advantage of that. Let me tell you about the system that I use. And I have used this system for many, many, many years. So I use an ABCD system. It is the same system that is built into the Referral Maker CRM. I don't use my categories exactly the way that they recommend. This is kind of my own, like, what makes sense to me. And that's really what this is all about. It's what makes sense to you. If it's a complicated process and you've got 10 different categories, you're never going to be able to keep up with it. So you have to keep it simple. 3 to 5, I think, is really the max in terms of segmenting your database. So for me, an A+ in my database and an A+, really, this should be the smallest number of people in your database. My database has 750-ish people in it, and I've only got about 30 A+. So the A+ are the people who have done multiple transactions with me over the years, or they have referred many people to me who have closed real estate transactions with me in the past. So those are my A+ people. They tend to get everything. So they will get more frequent pop buys. They get invited to every event. Anytime I have something going on, I'm definitely going to include this small group of people because these are my biggest advocates, my biggest fans. They are the biggest part of my database in terms of closed business. And then an A for me in my database is someone who has done business with me more than once, or they have closed at least one, or they've referred at least one closed transaction with me. So they're not quite with the A+, but they do tend to refer me and they have worked with me more than once. A B is someone who I am actually actively working with in a transaction, or we've closed a transaction, but they haven't yet referred business to me, or we've only done that one transaction. So I'm going to put them in as a B. They're going to get a little bit more frequent contact from me, but they're not quite up on that high level just yet. And I'm hoping that I can, through staying in touch with them and through communicating with them how important referrals are to me, I'm hoping that they're going to move up through that chain. A C is where everyone I enter into my database, this is where they start. So when I meet someone for the first time, I go on an appointment for the first time, I make a new acquaintance or contact, C is where they start. That's where they go into my database. And then based on how that relationship goes, or whether we start working together or what happens, they will then move up or down in my database depending on what's happening. But C is kind of where they start. So C means, we're acquainted. We haven't done business together. They haven't referred anybody to me, but I think that there's potential that they will either work with me or that they will refer to me in the future. And then a D really kind of stands for delete. Or for me, what I do is I use it as a placeholder in my database because I still have people that I want to have in my database that I want to communicate with on a periodic basis. So for example, my annual holiday card, that I send that out to lots and lots of people beyond just my database. And so this is the D is sort of that category of person that I don't want to market to regularly, but I want to keep track of them because I'm going to be mailing to them maybe once or twice a year. And so who are those people? It's people like maybe some vendors that I work with occasionally, but I don't really have a strong relationship. My strong relationship vendors that I work with a lot, they are almost all B's or A's in my database. It might be other agents. So certainly, like you, I have a lot of agent contacts. My agents that are out of state that we refer business back and forth, they're higher ranked in my database. And in fact, I have a whole group set aside for them in my database so that I can acknowledge and thank these people on a regular basis. But if they're a local agent, they're just a friend, somebody I want to be in touch with periodically, then I put them in the D category. So for me, that kind of gives me a place to put people. Family members that don't live in the state. So family members that are here, they are in my database and they're A's in my database, or maybe even an A+ in my database. But family members that don't live here, have never lived here, but I still want to reach out to occasionally, then that is where they're ranked in my database. So figure out what your ranking system is going to be. Don't make this too complicated. Don't overthink this. Don't try to find the perfect system. Start with something and you can always edit it and revise it as time goes on. Okay, the next part here is going to be growing your database. So especially for you, if you are somebody who has been in business for a while, you already have a database established. This section is what's going to take the most time for you. And in fact, this is a section that I recommend that you will even come back to and refresh or revise or redo periodically. There are opportunities everywhere, and a lot of times we miss them. And this happens to me. I just recently I got a referral from someone, and I realized I didn't have them in my database. So we have these things that come up, these people that we just, for whatever reason, we just don't think of, we don't add them, but the opportunities are there. And the more you're focused on growing your database, the more you will start to see and recognize those opportunities. So the key here is add. You just need to add the people. Anyone that you have a chat with about real estate, whether it's a client or not, add them. If it's a new acquaintance that you meet, if your child is playing on a new sports team and you have a conversation with one of the moms, add her to your database and send a little note. So great chatting with you. Looking forward to a great season. We have these opportunities and these connections in so many different places. And so don't miss out on those because you think that they don't want to hear from you. Something that I strongly recommend, and this is something that I do with our Empower Coaching members, is having a regular goal to add a specific number of people to your database. So if you are familiar with my story, you know that there was a period of time where I took a break from sales to become a managing broker. And during that 2.5 years, I was not allowed to sell. And my business went from producing 400 or 500 leads a year to 15 leads when I came back to the field 2.5 years later. So I was really starting my business over from scratch. And so one of the strategies that I employed when I was rebuilding my business is my goal was to add 5 people to my database every single week. So you can imagine how quickly that's going to add up. And so it kept me constantly looking, searching, thinking. I still have a goal. My goal now is just to add 1 person to my database every week. And a lot of times I actually add more than that, but just having that goal and having that time to kind of sit and think, okay, who have I met this week? Who have I come in contact with that may not be in my database or that I can put into my database, or who have I had a conversation with that I can add in? I also encourage that you will download and work through my database scavenger hunt, which let me move this over here, just so you can see it down at the bottom. So my database scavenger hunt is a little worksheet that we first put together for my team, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and we have refreshed it and revised it multiple times. and I've shared it a few times through Empowering Women in Real Estate. It is a kind of a quick list of all the different people that you may not be thinking of or that you should be thinking of to add into your database. And so the idea is it's going to jog your memory so that you can add some more people in. Every time, it doesn't matter how many times I do this, every time I go through the database scavenger hunt, I end up adding quite a few people into my database. And so where you can get this free download is it's at bit.ly/EWRE scavenger hunt. You can see it down there at the bottom. And you can download the PDF, and then that will give you a chance. That's something you can hang on to and you can go through on a regular basis. And then a little tip, and I mentioned this once already, but a little tip that I have for you is add people as soon as you think of them. I often find, we are on the road a lot. If you are driving, especially right now, if you are working with buyers and you're a buyer's agent, you are all over the place and you're in the car constantly. And so you might think of someone to add, but you don't have all their contact information available. Well, so just add them. I will add just a name into my database. If you have an assistant or someone who works with you, you can email them or text them and say, add this name to my database, or they could even look up contact information for you, or jot down a note somewhere and just enter their name. Because when you get to the maintenance phase, which we're going to talk about, then you will have the opportunity to find their information and make sure that you're really connecting with them. But if you don't even put them in the first place, then you're not even going to have that opportunity. So that is one of the tips that I have used over the years that I have found to be super, super helpful. And when it comes to maintenance, so we'll wrap up here with maintenance. There is nothing that is one time only about your database, or there is no, set it and forget it aspect of your database. There's something I read once, and they refer to the database as a living, breathing entity, and that needs maintenance. It needs to be fed. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be worked with in order for it to grow and in order for that to grow your business. So one of the things that I do is I schedule, and I recommend that you do as well, schedule a periodic database refresh. And this is a time for you to go through your database, going to go all the way through your database, and you're going to update rankings because things change, right? Somebody who maybe starts out in your database as a B, well, if they start referring people to you, you want to make sure that you move them up because you want to make sure that you stay in touch with them a little bit more frequently, or that you're acknowledging them more frequently. Or sometimes they might go down, or sometimes they might need to be deleted. The database refresh can be pretty painful. Every time I do a database refresh, and I do it 2 to 3 times a year, every time I find a couple people who have done business without me. You go through and there's someone you haven't heard from and you realize, I haven't been in touch with them for quite a while. And so it gives you a chance to go through, and I'll check the tax records, or I will look up their address online. And sometimes I do find that they have moved on without me. And I need to know that information so that I can update my database, and then I can focus on the people that I can really help. I've done a whole podcast episode on this database refresh process. You can listen to that. It's episode 32 of Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. It's called Database Refresh. You can find it anywhere on whatever podcast app you like to use, or you can go to our website, empoweringwomeninrealestate.com, and just search for episode 32, and it will pop up and you can listen to it right there. But the database refresh, when I do it, it really takes me a good probably 3-ish hours to go through my entire database, but it is so valuable. It gives me a chance to fill in those gaps, those contact information gaps from the people that I have added in, but I don't have all their information. Or is there somebody who has kind of moved up and become an A+, but I don't have their birthday? Well, then I'm going to go and find that. And so it just gives me an opportunity to really update and make sure that I am nurturing the folks in my database to the highest level possible. And then the last step when it comes to maintenance, and which is a big part of your database, is having a plan for follow-up. You can't just put the database together and then not do anything else with it. You need to be touching and nurturing your database on a consistent basis. And so you need to have a plan. You need to have a system. You need to have a way that you are going to be staying in touch. How are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? How often are you going to do it? So one suggestion that I will give you, if you've not done this before, is you might want to consider our Marketing Plan Made Easy course, which is part of the Empowering Women in Real Estate educational series. You can find it on the website. It's only $29, and it walks you through putting together that marketing plan for staying in touch. For my database, I touch my clients, everyone who's in my database, anywhere from 20 to 30 times per year based on their ranking. So again, going back to where we started, and then NAR stat that people forget, you're a realtor every 17 days, you need to be top of mind. You need to be connecting. You need to be in front of them at least once a month if you want to make sure that you are that person that they think of, either when they need you for their real estate needs or they know someone who could benefit from your services. And then we'll just really wrap up here with information about Empower Coaching. So Empower Coaching is our monthly membership program. Through that program, I provide the entire Keep in Touch strategy broken down into easy to execute weekly plans. It is the exact plan that I have used over the last 19 years. It is the exact plan that my team uses. And I provide all of that through the program, which has not only just your Keep in Touch plan, but it provides a lot of tangible things that you can use right away, like ready to print, post, or customize graphics, postcard templates, pop-by tags, newsletter. We do monthly group coaching sessions. We do monthly action hours. I have a weekly quick lesson video that posts. Plus, when you are a member of Empower Coaching, you actually get access free to all of these educational series courses for as long as you remain a member. So that's only $59 a month. There's no time commitment or contracts. You can cancel anytime with no hard feelings. And if you are interested in learning more or you wish to join Empower Coaching, just go to empoweringwomeninrealestate.com and click on coaching. So I hope that this course has been helpful to you. I hope that you have learned more about the importance and the benefits of building and growing your database. I hope that you will take the time to go through the steps to gather your CRM together, figure out what you're going to use, put all the people in your database, growing your database. Definitely make sure that you download that scavenger hunt, the download, so that you can find more people to add to your database, and then making sure that you are constantly touching, maintaining, and staying in touch. So I hope that was helpful to you. See you next time.